You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS fluff or overused jargon, just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 109, an insider's access to Amber De La Garza, a personal interview. If you're an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. But if this is your very first time listening to Productivity Straight Talk, I encourage you to put off listening to this episode to go back and listen to one of my 108 other episodes, because this episode is unlike any other. That's because I won't be dishing out any of my favorite tech, tools, or tips to make you more productive and succeed in business, nor will I be interviewing a successful entrepreneur or business expert. Instead, I will be on the other side of the mic answering questions about myself and my life. That's right. Today, my assistant Krystle will be interviewing me and asking questions and getting to the bottom of who I really am. And boy, did she do a great job. So if this is your first time, I'm so happy you're here. But if you're not truly interested in who I am quite yet, like my loyal listeners, go listen to some previous episodes and then come back and join me after you've done so. I'm looking forward to this episode. Take that back. I'm looking forward to providing this episode to you, but if I have to be honest, I was really nervous. I actually asked Krystle to come up with questions, and I specifically did not want to know what any of the questions were. In fact, I gave her very little guidance as to what kind of questions to ask. I thought that would be best because I wanted her to come from a perspective of, if there's somebody that I wanted to know about, what kind of questions would I ask? And did she come through? So in this episode, you are going to hear a lot of personal stories, a lot of things about my biggest fears, about my first job, how I became the productivity specialist, and so much more. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to let you know about a way that we can work together. Did you know that I'm available to speak at your local or national association, corporation, or event? That's right. I give the Straight Talk on productivity to live audiences from the stage, not just from behind the microphone. If you're in need of a captivating short talk or dynamic full-day experience that will inspire and equip your attendees for success, then I invite you to book me as your speaker for your next event. For more information, you can head on over to theproductivityspecialist.com/speaking. Now, let's dive in and get to the straight talk. Hey, Krystle, how are you today?
Hi, Amber. I'm fantastic. How are you, boss lady?
Good. So welcome to Productivity Straight Talk podcast. I don't think you ever imagined on as a guest, right?
Definitely not.
Okay, so actually you're not a guest. When I asked, you're like, well, no. And so we came up with this great idea that you're actually going to be boss today and interview me.
Yay!
So I will let you intro today's episode, but first I want to do a great intro for you. I think all my listeners that have listened for any time know that I have this amazing assistant that has like literally grown up with me in my business and supports me amazingly. And we're literally probably not going to share your last name because I have had so many people try to steal you away from me. But our listeners are going to get to hear a little bit from you. And so that just makes me so happy that they get to meet you. But I'm going to let you take it away because I'm not used to not being in the driver's seat. So this is going to be so uncomfortable and probably great
for both of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and for us both to be uncomfortable and recording, I'm certain this is going to make for a great episode.
For sure.
All right, Krystle, what do you got for me today?
All right. So before I jump into my questions, I just want to let your listeners know that you have not prepped for this interview at all.
No.
I asked you if you wanted me to give you the questions I came up with ahead of time, and you said no.
No.
You thought it'd be more like authentic and real if you heard the questions for the first time as I asked them today. And you could have had this entire thing on lockdown and had your answers perfectly planned out, but instead you're approaching it with bravery and dedication to your audience to be like authentic. And I commend you for that. So thanks, Amber.
Thank you. And
so guys, yeah.
Shake it up too, right? So I was like, no, I don't want to see the questions. I don't want to be like, oh, what's the perfect answer? So
for sure,
getting like the real me, and we'll see what comes of this today.
The real deal today, guys. That's what you're getting. Amber de la Garza, raw and uncensored.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Is that any different than the rest of the episodes? Okay,
well,
so the other episodes, it's raw, uncensored, and outlined. Today, it's outlined, but I don't know about it.
But not by Amber.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So in the words of Amber de la Garza, let's do this.
Yes.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Do we have a when?
Oh, when? Sorry. See, I'm not a good listener. Okay. March 3rd, 1981. And a fun fact. So I'm second generation born and raised in Vegas. My son is third generation, which anyone that's from Las Vegas or lives in Las Vegas knows how not common that is. Like
you're
everyone
true local
comes here and, you know, it's very transient, but we were born and raised.
Okay. Awesome. And why did your parents name you Amber?
I have no idea.
No idea. It's not a grandmother's name, nothing.
No,
okay.
I have no idea. I do know that my mom always envisioned having a little girl. So maybe that was a name that she liked, but I never got a story.
Just liked it. And what's your first vivid memory?
Oh my gosh. My first vivid memory. You know, my biggest memory as a child was my bedroom. My mom always made a big deal of like having these like fully decorated, fully themed out bedrooms. And we moved out of this house when I was in the first grade. So this memory is probably like 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years old. She had a rainbow the whole width of the entire bedroom wall with clouds. And the whole room was like if you were up in the clouds, like living in the clouds under the rainbow. And when we moved out, the memory that I have is sitting on the curb, bawling my eyes out, demanding her to paint over the walls because I didn't want anyone else to have my bedroom. Like, I don't know why that's such a big memory, but and I've kept that tradition. So my son, like the only room in the house that's 100% decorated and like themed and like, because even after that room, as I grew up, and as I went through different seasons of my life, my mom always made it a point to have my room like exactly how I wanted it.
I've seen your son's room and I can tell you guys, it is Batman on steroids. It has murals all over the wall of Gotham City. It is sick.
It is. And lucky for me, the kid is super loyal. So he's never changed, loving Batman since he was 3 years old. He's 9. So for me, that's good for the mom. I haven't had to change it out. But the day I do, we'll be going all out for the new theme.
Well, your mom sounds awesome. How about your dad and your siblings? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah. So I was like, I have one dad and one sibling. No. Okay. So my dad lives in Georgia. He was not born there, but I have extended family, and he and my brother ended up migrating out there when my brother was like in junior high. Super proud of them. They have a business. So my dad painted my entire life, painted houses. And so my brother picked up the trade and they started a business and they worked together as like co-partners. And they have a business as well, painting. And, you know, it's very interesting because as children, I honestly can say for myself, I never knew a business owner. And now growing up, my brother and I are both business owners, which is really cool. Yeah.
And your father was, so it runs in the family, which is great.
Well, my father was not a business owner. He was a painter, like union construction painters. It wasn't until my brother started the business and
I see.
Like my dad's years of experience and my brother's, you know, pursuit for wanting to start a family business and do it on their own and not work for someone else. So now they own a business, but no, we definitely did not know anyone that owned a business.
Got it. All right.
Yep.
And what were you most often disciplined for as a kiddo?
I was a really good kid. Like,
Aw.
I mean,
Of
really,
course
really
you
good
were.
kid. Now, in hindsight, it was
Mhm.
like I was afraid of my mom. Like she really ran a house that I was like, okay, I had my first drink when I was 22. Okay, that's not normal.
Why?
I ditched once in high school and I got sick and I was throwing up on my friend's couch the whole day. And I was like, yeah, this is what happens to people that ditch. I was such a rule follower. Uh, and now I'm not such a rule follower.
No.
So, yeah, exactly. It's come full circle. But as a
Yes.
kid, if there was one thing that I got in trouble for, it was like I wouldn't listen to other adults. I would be like really snotty, like, you're not my mom. You can't tell me. And I don't know. That's about all I remember.
You were a little pit bull back then too.
Yeah, like, but sweet with a smile.
Yes. Who never ditched.
Who never ditched. I just once and got sick.
Okay. And what did you want to be when you grew up?
A marine biologist. And do not ask me how I ever came up with that. To me, that meant you got to swim with the dolphins when I was a really, really young kid.
Live at SeaWorld. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And then as I got older and like more realistic, it was real estate. I wanted to sell houses. And the vision that I had about real estate was you drive fancy cars, you get to sell fancy houses, and you get to have fancy lunches. And so, that was like the 13-year-old me. And I ended up interning in high school my junior and senior year and realized it was nothing like that. But I actually pursued it. I went to college and I got a degree in real estate and business management. I sold real estate. I was licensed at 18. In fact, about 18 and a half. I'm going on 20 years being licensed to sell real estate. So I don't obviously currently sell real estate by any means, but it was where I started.
Okay. And was interning at the real estate firm your first job?
No, my very first job was the day after I turned 15 and a half, because you have to be 15 and a half to work here where I lived. I got a job. My very first job was at Wet n Wild, which was it was a water feature. At 15 and a half. The next summer, I was already in management and I was managing my peers that I went to school with. Like, I even have barbecues and our families grow up together. Like, we have kids the same age and we joke about how I was like boss or bossy back then. Like, I'm 16 and already like supervising the ice cream shop at the water park and, people that I go to school with.
That sounds like it could have been tough socially.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know that they wanted it, so it didn't seem awkward at the time. But in hindsight, I get to hear what they thought of me. But when it was happening, I didn't think it was too bad.
Mm-hmm. And what's the biggest trouble you ever got in as a teenager, I guess?
Yeah, I actually, same thing. I was so bad at doing anything wrong. Every time I did something wrong, I got caught. So my boyfriend, my very first boyfriend, so this is before my husband. So I had one boyfriend before my husband now, and his parents went out of town. And of course, I decided to go over there after his parents specifically called my parents to let them know they were going out of town, not to come over. And so I went over there, we were swimming and hanging out and really just not getting in trouble. Like, we weren't doing anything except for the fact I shouldn't have been at my boyfriend's house unsupervised.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I was really cool. And I went in his older sister's bedroom to call from her phone to check in because of course it's a different phone number. Yeah.
Sneaky.
Sneaky, except for, do you think she paid for her own phone? No, it was under her dad's name, which came with his parents' name on my mom's caller ID. So as soon as I called to check in, where are you? And I was like, whatever I said. And she's like, where are you? And I was like, whatever. And she's like, get home right now. Like,
oh boy,
it's saying his parents' name on the caller ID.
Smooth
I thought
move, Amber.
Yeah. I wasn't good at like figuring out how to get, I wasn't good at figuring out how to not get caught because I didn't do it enough when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Need a bit more practice.
Apparently.
Yes. And did you ever wear one outfit out the door, like I've heard teenagers do, then change into another to go to a party or to school?
No, my mom was really lenient. She didn't really care what I wore. So like I could wear crop tops and like
cool.
Cute little like cutoffs, and nope, my mom never cared.
See, your mom sounds like the best. All right. Now getting into adulthood, where did you go to college and what did you major in?
Yeah. So like I said, I went to UNLV. and I did a double major in real estate and business management. And I ended up getting actually a full scholarship because I got my degree in real estate. It was one of those things that there was very few people applying to it. It was something I was interested in, and they were looking at growing that, particular area of the college. And so I was really fortunate enough to be able to make enough money through scholarships and financial aid to live out on my own right when I turned 18 and go to college.
That's fantastic. How was your overall college experience doing it in Las Vegas?
So I worked all through college, and I either went to school at night or during the day and then worked during the night. I didn't have the typical college experience. Like, I went to school to go to school. I didn't do it for social. And I really missed that. Like, after I got out of my 20s, I had wished I had done, the more social, full-on college experience, but I did not do that. For me,
you missed all the frat parties. Come on.
I wasn't a partier. I hadn't gotten into my groove yet. I was like, I just do this thing. And I was even at a young age, very career oriented. Mm-hmm. And so I was working on my goals and just didn't do that. I didn't hit that phase until, I don't know if this is a question you're going to end up asking, but when I got back together with my husband, which is a whole nother story, we took a 5-year break from high school to when we were together again as adults. And I remember one of the first conversations we had, well, he was literally like, what is that saying? Like, sowing your oats. Like, he was living his life and partying and like getting it all out of his system when we weren't together. So when we got together and I was still like a stick in the mud, like, I worked and went to school and I didn't do anything and like all this stuff. He's like, you need this time in your life to like really experience life. And so it was like when I was 23 or 24 that I actually did what most people do in their young college years. And, it was, going out and dancing and real like social life, like through the whole weekend. And he's like, go like do all this before we decide we're going to settle down. And it was the best thing that he did. Like, that was very wise of him at a young age to know that I still needed to work through that phase in my life, even though I hadn't done it yet.
He was selfless and you're just a late bloomer, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you feel that college education helped you get to where you are today as an entrepreneur and business owner?
No.
Not at all. Shame.
I don't. So I think that the experience that I got from college was hitting deadlines, managing my time, learning how to work with people, but the actual education of how to run a business in today's day and age, I do not think I was equipped for that or trained for that with my college degree. The last 7 years, I feel like I have grown more in the last, we'll even call it the last 5 years, right? The most recent 5 years of my business, more in the last 5 years than I have in any other time in my life, including college. And there's just something to be said about you having to figure things out and you have to, see what works. And unfortunately, now I wouldn't take back that experience, but it did not prepare me to be a business owner. I don't feel.
Okay. And I'm glad you got that scholarship then.
Right?
Helped a little bit. Yeah. All right. And we heard a little bit about Joe. How did you guys meet and how did you know he was the one?
Okay. So this is, again, my mom, it was the beginning of my sophomore year, football season. I had stayed after school for something and my mom drove a truck at the time. And I had a guy friend, and he's like, hey, can you take me and my friends home? They had just got done with football practice. And I was like, sure, I'll ask my mom. She's like, yep, throw him in the back of the truck. Like, we don't do that now, but, and it was like, yep, throw him in the back of the truck. And so it was literally probably like 6 guys. And one of them was in a wife beater. I don't know, for those of you that don't call it that, the white tank top white undershirts.
With the ribbing. Yes.
With the ribbing. Yeah. So we call them wife beaters. I've been told that's just really not a good thing to say, but that's what we call it. And I was in the front and my mom's like, who's that guy? I'm like, what guy? She's like, that one. She's literally pointing him out. I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen him. Never seen him. But But my mom had good taste because I was like, oh, he is cute. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started seeing him around kind of socially. And I would say within 2 weekends, a bunch of us went to the movies and we went and saw Jurassic Park. And when I say a bunch of us, I'd say like 10 to 15 of us all met at the theater. We're all going to Jurassic Park. And I had my eyes set on him and that was it. Like I was done. I was going to sit next to him, sat next to him. I think I was holding his hand by the end of the day. Now, in hindsight, if you hear this story, he was literally there to hook up with my best friend, Markel. He had no idea who I was. He didn't remember that my mom ever even gave him a ride home. Okay. He had never seen me before.
Oh, Joe.
And so I was like, but once I had my eyes on him, I was like, hook, done. All right. So then we started dating and we were together ever since. And then our senior year, I was the good girl. So he would literally hang out with me until my curfew. And then he'd live this double life and drop me off at home and then go out with his friends and go party and go do all the stuff that normal, I think, teenagers do. And after a while, I felt like I was holding him back and I felt like he was going down a different path than I was. And again, I was a late bloomer, like you referenced, and he was like ready to like go live life. And I'm like, this is not the path. I am going to college and I'm graduating.
I'm a good girl.
Like, I had like this checklist of stuff. And I was like, so we actually broke up sitting on, that's so funny. I would have never put these two stories together had you not asked me. So sitting on the curb in front of his house and both just like, we love each other but our paths just are going in different directions. And so it was very hard breakup, but we stayed friends. And I mean, I think we still even hooked up afterwards, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't like a clean break. It was just, it seems like we're going in different directions. Well, he actually wrote in my senior book, I still have it today, my yearbook, he foretold our entire future. And he literally wrote out, thank you for loving me and like all this stuff. And listen, if our paths are meant to be, they'll cross again. We just have to have faith. But in the meantime, let's go like kind of find out who we are, in the world. And I don't think I even thought much of it when I read it. But in hindsight, as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh. So then by the time halfway through our senior year, we weren't talking at all. Like I was like, he's a loser. All he does is party. Like, I don't know what he's doing with his life. Like, how could he do this? Was me in my head. So snobby. So we weren't talking at all. And then 5 years goes by and we run back into each other. And,
rekindle that.
I'm going to edit this.
Looking even hotter, Joe.
Rekindled it. And we literally, that is what we needed. Like I needed to grow up and we both needed to grow up and go on our own paths. And I remember him reaching out to me and with no anticipation, neither one of us had anticipated being together. I was actually engaged at the time. And so I was like, yeah, this is uncomfortable. Like we can't talk. And then I'm giving totally the short versions, but at some point he said, hey, can we meet up? And we met at a Starbucks. And he'll probably kill me if he knew I was like throwing this out here, but I tell anyone that will listen, it's like a Lifetime movie. And he pretty much said, like I had a dream and I just need to tell you, like, I wish you the best in your life. Like I wish you the best on, getting married. And it seems like you're doing really well. And I just need to tell you, like, thank you. Like, thank you for showing me what love is. And I'll never settle for less than what we had.
Oh my goodness. 5 years later. 5
years after we had broken up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I love you. Like, I've always loved you. I look for you everywhere. Like every big event, every concert, everywhere. You would think that if our paths were going to cross, we'd run into each other. I left. That was like way too much. Like I'm engaged. Like he literally was like saying goodbyes. And like, I realized I had still had all these feelings and they were flooding back. So I went back to my own life. I was like, forget this. Like I'm not doing this. Fast forward, obviously I broke off my engagement and I went to Joe's work and I told him, okay, so I broke off my engagement and like,
let's do this.
And he's like, nope, that's not what I intended. Like, I'm not trying to be with you. Like, this is not what I wanted. No. And I was like, I know. Cause I didn't break it off for him. I was like, I know, but here's the deal. I came here to thank you now. Thank you for reminding me of how we felt and what love was, because I was getting ready to marry a man that I didn't have that passion for.
Oh my goodness, I'm crying. Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so he literally kind of shooed me like, okay, thanks, lady. But like, I did not come here to like break off an engagement and like, I'm leaving
and marry you tomorrow. No.
And I was like, me too. Like, I'm going to get my life together.
Okay.
So we spoke a good game, and then we've been together every single day since that day. So, that's just, I mean, and I share that story because, well, it's a big story for me in my life.
Yeah.
It just has taught me a lot about just having faith, and sometimes things are about timing, and, you know, some people come into your lives to show you something that was right in front of you, right? Like, I mean, he reminded me, and so now we've been together ever since. We're getting ready to hit our 11 years of being married, 20 years of being together, and a 9-year-old son. He's
wonderful.
The best thing.
Perfect little family. Yes. An ace dog. Right.
And he's my dog. And my husband is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So I'm very thankful.
Was your wedding picture perfect?
Yeah. Yeah. I loved my wedding. So we chose to do a small wedding. What I consider small. We had 48 people, just our really closest friends and family. And I'm not a huge dancer. I danced the entire night away. I never came off the dance floor. We partied. We had a hotel room before we left for our honeymoon. And we partied the entire night with all of like our closest friends came to the hotel room. And I just remember that being like one of the best days of my entire life.
It looked like it. I've seen some of your wedding pictures and you look so genuinely happy, as does Joe.
Yeah.
As a wedding should be, for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely how it was. So it was great.
Okay. So thinking back on your relationship with Joe, either married or not married, what's the stupidest thing you ever said to him that you regretted immediately?
One thing? Oh my goodness.
Right? Choose the top one.
Oh my gosh. The stupidest thing that I've ever said to him. Oh my gosh. I think it happens. I couldn't even tell you. I'm trying to remember. I don't have a story that's coming to mind, but I say weird shit all the time. I mean, he just rolls with it. I can't think of anything that I've said, like a good story, but I'll circle back if I remember something.
Okay. Sounds great. What would Joe say your biggest quirk is?
Well, we were actually just talking about this like an hour before we started recording this. He had come home. We're like literally like just talking because he had come home. And I was talking about how Eric is okay with things if he just knows what's happening. Like if he just knows like who's picking him up or what are the plans for the day, but if he doesn't know and something comes up as a surprise that like upsets him. And I was like, and the reason I can identify with that is because I need to know what the plan is and what the thing is. And like, I'm explaining all this. And I was like, so we just need to kind of accommodate that. Like, if we do know, who's picking them up, whether it's me or my husband or our nanny, like my son doesn't care. But when he doesn't know, that's when it kind of upsets him. Mm-hmm. And so I was explaining the similarities to me and how that shows up in my life, like needing to know what's the plan. And I don't care. It's not that the plan got changed in a bad way. It's just the plan got changed. Like that irks me. Mm-hmm. So he literally looked at me and goes, yeah, I don't get you guys.
Oh, that's cute.
And so because he doesn't see the world that way, like he's more go with the flow and laid back and doesn't need a plan for everything. I mean, I think I have a lot of quirks. My husband and I are very, very opposite of each other. And so he's an introvert. He does not exist on any social media platform at all.
Zero.
Like the man doesn't exist. In fact, he traveled a lot for work for many years. And I would tell him like, when I'd visit, I'd be like, can I get one photo? Like, I think people think I make you up. Because he doesn't exist on any of my So your question was, what's quirky about me?
Yeah.
Honestly, he doesn't make me feel that way. He is just the most like understanding of who I am, even though I'm so different than him. And I would say I'm less understanding of him in ways that he's different than me. Like, I'm like, what? You don't see things that way? Like, I'll question it. Whereas if he knows I'm different in a way, he'll be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, cool.
He finds your quirks endearing.
He does.
You, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. He does. I think he does.
He is a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So your 9-year-old son, Eric, that you talk about a lot on the podcast because he is your world. What's your favorite thing about him?
Gosh, one thing. You know, he is super, super thoughtful. Like beyond thoughtful. And Dad and I are not thoughtful people. So that's why I think I appreciate it more. Now, I'm thoughtful in the fact that I care about people and I go out of my way for people that I care about. And so does my husband. But don't ask me what your favorite ice cream is or your favorite color. And don't even ask me what shoe size my husband is, because 20 years later, and I'm certain it hasn't changed in 20 years, I still have to text him or ask him what his shoe size is or his shoes. Like, I'm just not thoughtful in the details.
Mm-hmm.
My son,
some of the gifts you've given me have been extremely thoughtful, but
Krystle, I try really freaking hard because you matter a lot to me.
It takes effort, huh?
It takes effort. So like my thoughtful gift to you is like, it took, like, I'd be literally physically sweating and totally like, okay, this is a project. I'm going to think about how I can give Krystle a gift. Whereas for some people, like my son, he remembers every gift and who got it for him, the story behind it. He keeps keepsakes. He keeps cards. He, will be out and there'll be something that he knows about our nanny. And he'll be like, oh, maybe we can get, Shelby this thing because I heard her say she likes it. Like, it's passing. So the thing I love most about him is he's really, really thoughtful. And I encourage it because I don't think we exemplify it very much. And so it's something unique to him. And I want him to hold on to that.
That's beautiful. And he's very sentimental, it sounds like, too.
He is, yeah.
Okay. So staying with Eric, what's something funny or embarrassing he said in the past that you'll never forget? He'd say the darndest things, right?
There are countless times. I like telling those stories. Again, he's 9 and I don't understand this. Like, I don't remember thinking this way when I was his age. And again, he just turned 9 like 10 days ago. But he is a private person too. And so he has asked me to run by anything I post on social media about him, any stories that I share about him. And in public, if something happens that I think he did funny, which there is one that's coming up, but I can't share it because he's asked me not to.
Okay.
He literally, like, we were at Easter and we're all doing a family barbecue. We were there for hours and I said a funny thing that he did that I thought was hilarious. And he took it as I was embarrassing him and laughing at him.
Oh, no.
But he didn't take it bad. He just said, no, mommy, like, you weren't supposed to tell people that. And I said, oh my gosh, you didn't tell me that. I just thought it was something funny you said. End of story.
He's self-aware.
He's very self-aware. Fast forward, we get in the car hours later and he's like, Mom, when we get home, can we talk? Like, in a stern, like, you're going to the principal's office, Amber, kind of talk, right? And I'm like, okay. So we get home and he says, Amber, he doesn't say Amber. He's like, Mommy, we need to talk about what's appropriate to say and what's not appropriate to say. And he literally laid the guidelines and he just said, and I would appreciate it in the future if you would just think about how that might make me feel when you share that story.
Aww.
Now, I'm setting this up like this is this big embarrassing story, but in my world, it was not. It was really funny.
Of course.
And so I kind of avoided your question. There's 100 of them. But because he literally brought it to my attention, handled the situation so well and expressed what his boundaries were, in that way, he's more like my husband. My husband's a very private person. And so I want to respect that. Okay. Yeah.
He's very mature and it's incredible that he made such a teachable moment out of that for you.
For me, I was so proud of the emotional intelligence. Like, he could have thrown a fit, he could have got mad, or he could have literally, like, what most 8-year-olds would do, like, beyond just 100 other things by the time we got home 3 hours later.
Yes.
But he knew when it was appropriate, how to bring it up to me, how to create new boundaries. And I was like, whoa, we're okay. We're doing something right.
Yes, you definitely are. Yeah. All right. A couple more questions about Eric because he's so interesting. So what's the scariest situation you've ever been in with him? And I think I know it. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, really? I'm
Like as a
which
mom,
one are
what's
you
been the
telling me
scariest
about?
thing? There was a pool incident.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of them. Okay. So I was at a barbecue and he was young. He was like, I want to say 3. And this is going to go into bad mom story too, but we all have them. Is
Yes, we
I
do.
was at a barbecue, fully dressed. I didn't know that it was a pool party. So we get there and all the kids are in the pool. So we borrowed like swim shorts from the kid that lived there. And he was sitting on this, when the stairs are really, really big and you can kind of sit on them or lay out on them or put a chair on them. So he was sitting on the top stair that was quite big. And I wasn't 3 feet away talking to 2 other women, watching him from the side of my eye. And he's just sitting there splashing in the water. And somehow he decided he thought he was going to swim and he went to the middle of the pool. And the next thing I looked, he was at the bottom of the pool. And I mean, I was fully dressed in like a summer dress, the makeup and the hair and everything. And in just a split second, I was in the water underneath, pulling him out. He didn't actually drown, obviously, but he was spitting up water, very, very scared. I think he was fine. I think he didn't know what was going on because he was so young, but I was he was reacting to how scared I was. And for me, that was like one of the scariest, like he literally was not fighting in the water. Like he was at the bottom of the pool. And I don't know how it happened so fast. I was literally standing right there. So that would be a really scary.
Yeah, that is
time.
extremely scary. And thank goodness it ended so well. I had a similar experience where I was at a beach and my son Cody, who was probably just 12 months at the time, was just standing down there with his brother playing with the sand tools. And I was talking to my friend 10, 15 feet away on the beach. And all of a sudden I look over and he had fallen backwards in the water on an incline. So his face was underwater. And I've never run so fast in my life over to him to look over. And I will never forget looking down that 1 second before I actually pulled him out of the water, my baby's face, wide-eyed, just staring up at me through the water. I mean, moms, we've all been there in some way or another as a parent, just where our kids, something happens and
totally.
They come so close. Like it's scary as heck.
It is really, really scary. I mean, I have a lot of like jokingly bad mom moments where you're like, okay, so we won't be doing that again. Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to me. The first time we met, when I interviewed to be your assistant, was at a coffee shop. What was your first impression of me? Honest answers, please.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know what my first impressions were. I remember being so nervous because it was like my first time interviewing somebody in my business. I think it was the naive, like when you, like, there's a saying, when you speak and it's about you, you'll always be nervous and you'll never serve your audience. But when you make it about them, well, in that interview, I was not making it about you. Like I was so nervous and like in my own head and like thinking and stuff. I don't remember that I had like a huge first impression, unfortunately. Okay. But I do know what I asked you.
I made the cut, so that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember one of the things I asked you.
Multitasking.
No,
that's a good one. I'll tell that story.
I did. But the one I remember was, do you enjoy writing and why do you enjoy writing?
Yes. Okay.
And I remember having a whole conversation about that because at that time, even early in my business, I knew I needed someone that could come alongside me and just like write or edit everything I write or some version of that, which is funny because like 5+ years later, that's exactly what you do. Like,
yes, it is. Absolutely.
But I remember that being one of the questions. I also remember not knowing. I knew that I needed help and I knew I wanted an assistant. And the idea of committing to, I think it was 10 hours when we first started, maybe a little more. I had no clue how I was going to keep you busy for 10 hours. And as soon as
found a way.
Immediately, wouldn't you say? Like, I don't think it was ever like, what are you going to do? It was like in my head, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to have her do for 10 hours? And then as soon as we said yes, it was like, okay, can I have more hours? Okay, how about more? How about more? And I think I've asked you for more every day since that day.
Yes, you're a big vision thinker, so it's easy for you to come up with more to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and the multitasking thing I recall was you asked me either like what skills I have or something. I proudly proclaimed multitasking as everyone does. And you as a productivity specialist, you know, that's not a skill, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. So now I know much better. I know multitasking is a lie. Switch tasking is not what it's about at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can understand now. So I won't slap anyone's hand if I'm interviewing them now. I will wait to educate them. But I get what they're saying. What they're trying to say is I handle a lot of things at one time well. You know, and that is something to say, you know, that there's something to be said about that skill set, because there's a lot of people that if you handed them, you know, 8 tasks from 6 different kinds of projects, that would freak them out. So I get that. But yeah, I think the whole I just think about, well, first of all, I don't know how often I've shared this story, but you were introduced to me from a client of mine and that you needed more hours. She couldn't give you more hours. And so that's how we interviewed. And I had just spoke to that mutual person a couple weeks ago. And I literally went on for like 10 or 15 minutes saying, I think I owe you like my first child. Like, I can't thank you enough for introducing Krystle. Like, you have no idea what happened in my life because, you know, you introduced her to me.
We are a good match, and I'm so grateful to still be working for you 7 years later.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. All right. Speaking of skill sets and qualities, like what do you consider are your 3 best qualities?
I think qualities or skill sets. So qualities, so qualities, I hear you asking like something about my personality that has served me or, okay. I remember, now I can't say that this has been the case all of my life. There's been spats that I have not been, obviously, but I would say generally I'm just a very hopeful person. And I think that quality keeps my drive going in my business. It keeps my drive going in relationships and in people and in life. Like I remember just, you know, life was really hard for us growing up. I was raised very poor. Life seemed very hard all around me. And yet I still saw so much brighter. I saw so much hope. I just saw that there was so much more than the life that I was experiencing as a child. And then as I grew up, I feel like I've always held on to like a vision and a hope and a dream. And that is enough that always drives me for more and more like every day.
That's a gift. Yes.
And I do want to preface that with as hopeful as I am or positive on most days or big vision, like that is not every day and that's not every moment. And I know I don't need to tell you, Krystle, because you're the person I go to in those days and moments, you and Joe. But when it gets dark or it gets hard, really hard, I think the only thing that does pull me out is I'm always like, okay, I need to get back to that place where I see the hope and the vision and like, what's the bigger picture that, you know, the carrot, like I got to get clear about the carrot. And when I do that, it helps me get out of like any hard days or moments in my business or life.
Out of the funk.
Yeah. And so you said a couple of qualities, right? A quality that I think has served me well is like, in a weird way, like I'm not like using this word cheerleader, it seems generic to me. I'm not a cheerleader for people in the sense of, I just do it to do it. But like, I can truly see the good in people and like what they have going for them. And like, I pull it out and like, I will root them on like whatever their goal is, like personal or professional. I do it with obviously my son, my husband, girlfriends that I just see on the weekends socially. And for heaven's sake, I do it with my clients. Like, if there's something that they see for themselves, like I can hold that space for them and like root them on. And I don't know that everybody approaches like the same situation that way, but I do see things as like, okay, we're going to do this together. Like, I got this, we got this. Like, all right, you know, I hold on to that hope and that bigger vision for other people. I think if you tied those two together, I think that's how I am a cheerleader for people.
I think you're a leader who goes alongside people. You know, and empowers them, motivates them to do better, but you're not just leaving them to do it on their own. Like you want to be there for them to guide them and hold their hand.
I would agree with you. Like even from my earliest memory of even being a manager in the ice cream shop that I shared, you know, at Wet n Wild, I was dishing up the ice cream. I was cleaning out the ice cream things. Like, I think that there's a popular term that's been about like a servant leader, like someone that comes alongside you and doesn't ask you to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. Well, I've lived that my entire life. And I think that has helped me also find people and keep amazing people around me because they know like either I've done it or I would do it with them, or I'm not just like leading from afar.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, we heard two of your great qualities. What would you consider one of your worst?
Only one? Okay.
Just
So
one.
I would say one of my worst qualities is I can also, so while I can be someone's biggest cheerleader, I can also, I have high standards, very high standards. And this has come up a lot with like studying my Enneagram personality type and stuff like that. Couple things. On the good side of my what quote unquote negative quality is having high standards is people rise to them, and that gives somebody to, aspire to. The negative side is that they're high standards, and that's not always okay for everybody. So that shows up being a mom. Mom, why does my room have to be perfectly clean? Why, why do my clothes have to match all the time? And, okay, so that's one standard. But another one is like, in my personal relationships, like friendships and stuff, like I have a very high ethical standard. Like if I determine that someone is gossipy or shady or talking crap, they're like out of my box.
Cut them out.
It's like it gets black and white, and that's not always a good trait. Forgiveness is a good trait, and I do that. But if I just let my personality be, I just have very high standards of like, this is what being a good friend looks like and being good people. And when you show me something else, I'm like, hold on, whoa. If you're talking about Susie, then that probably means you're talking about me when I'm not around. So we're just closing that box for now.
No toxic people.
Yeah. And so high standards, I would say, can show up negatively in some places.
Great. Thanks. All right. What's the one thing you've always wanted but still do not have?
Okay. So that was an easy one because it's on my vision board and my affirmations. I see myself having this very contemporary modern home, and everything's designed in it very modern and clean, and all the furniture and very minimalistic. And I mean, I have this thing designed in my head almost to a T, and it's white and grays and stones and, I don't know. I'm not even going to do a good job verbally saying it, but it's the house and the thing is like, I just see this my office is the only place in my house that looks like my vision. Everything else is like my old vision and brown. I want my whole house to look like my office.
Got it. I like your office.
I love my office.
One day you'll get there, Amber. You'll have that dream house.
It's part of my carrot.
Yes. All right. So what's been your proudest moment in your business to date?
I couldn't even begin to tell you a proudest moment. There's so many milestones that I'm so proud of. Most recently, Jenny is our new team member, and we were talking, she's been on for about 6 weeks, and the kids are getting out of school, and her husband changed his schedule. And we were just kind of talking about like, she's got 5 kids, and we were just kind of talking about, well, what's her new schedule going to be like, and how can she carve out time? And she's like, well, she was very hesitant. She thought that was going to upset me to have this conversation or some version of that. And I remember looking at her and telling her, this was literally 3 days ago. And I remember looking at her saying, listen, one of the things I'm most proudest about in my business is that it's able to help provide for 2 other moms that have kids that can be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I don't see that as a negative. I see that like I get to be a mom and have a business, and Krystle gets to be, Krystle, and she gets to raise her babies at home, and Jenny gets to raise her 5 kids, and she gets to be integral part of my business. And so I don't see that as a negative. I just see it as an opportunity that we can say, and how do we make it happen? And for me,
you do find a way. Yes. And we're so appreciative of that. Yes. Thank you, Amber.
And we do, but it's not for like a thank you. It's the fact that I would have never thought I would have grown up. And even if I only have a couple employees, like I know what kind of impact that can have on families. And that I take very seriously. Like if I'm growing my business, like that I'm proud of. The other thing that I'm really proud of is the relationships I've built with clients. Like I'm literally to tears right now.
You are.
Krystle.
I can see.
Is that my clients, when they work with me, it becomes such a relationship and intimate. And I've literally been their cheerleader, right? And I've held this vision with them, and I've been through the ups and downs with them. And so everything that we've just kind of talked about qualities and this and that comes full circle into, I'm so proud of my clients and what they've accomplished. And I'm proud of the relationships that I have with my clients, because when we've gone through working with each other, it's like a partnership. That's the best way I can say, is I feel like my clients feel like it's a partnership. And how do you not build a personal and professional relationship once you've done the kind of work that we do?
And sharing their happiness.
Oh my gosh. So totally. 100%.
When they hit their own milestones.
Every win that my clients have, or like when they jump on a Zoom call and they're like, I slayed the day or the week. And I'm like, we're just celebrating. Like that. I have gotten off of calls with clients and run upstairs to my husband when he's home. And I'm like literally like throwing up this like amazing like win that my client had. And he's just, the good guy he is, listening, and me, I'm just like over the moon.
Aw. Okay. We're going to make the next few questions a speed round. Just because for sake of time and people listening to your podcast, all your amazing listeners, we're just going to make this a speed round. Ready?
Do I get passed too? Like if I can't come up with something fast?
I will give you one pass.
Okay.
One time. This is like a game show, okay?
All right. We're on it.
Here we go. If you could travel 20 years into the future, what would you like to see yourself doing?
Traveling a lot.
All over the world or all over the U.S.? Where
I
do you
would
want to go?
be choosy about the world and different locations, but just travel, like wherever my heart desires, traveling with my husband in 20 years from now.
Awesome. I totally failed to make this a speed round. Okay. What's your biggest fear?
Failing.
Okay. What makes you tick?
My drive to achieve more, to accomplish things. So like the opposite of failure, pretty much.
That makes you tick?
I mean, the drive of accomplishing, like whatever I set in front of me, whether it's a client's goal, my goal, the family's goal, like that's literally what gets me up and gets me ticking. Like, okay, this is like what we're going to create and accomplish together.
Gotcha. I understand. Okay. I will rephrase. What pisses you off?
Oh, what pisses me off? Liars and people that cancel on me last minute.
You're right.
You wanted to know quirky things? Cancel on me last minute. It literally sets me through the roof.
Totally. All right. What's your typical day like? Weekday.
I wake up at 4 to 4:30. I'm a slow getter upper. I like to, roll around and stretch, and I get my coffee. And then I have my morning routine that can take anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. And that doesn't include getting ready. and then I'll go into the office if I feel like working, or sometimes I'm just, getting Eric ready and off to school. So we usually walk to school, ride our bikes to school during days that are pretty good temperatures. And then I go do a little exercise after I drop him off. So if we rode a bike, then I ride him to school and then I go ride. And then if I walk, then I go for a long walk. And then I'm literally behind the computer for the rest of the day. So I take lunch at home, but other than that, I'm on Zoom. So that's why it's important for me to have like my quiet time in the morning and my morning routine and getting myself straight, and then getting Eric out and then doing exercise, because then I'm like hunkered down. And then Eric comes home around 3:30. I stop and take a little break with him, and then I get back to work. My days usually are work from 9:30 to 5:30. Monday through Friday. Usually Fridays I do take an early out. So I love to take an early, like boys are home, Eric's home from school, and I'm done as soon as my boys are home.
Well, my next question was what things are important to you, but I truly believe that where your time is where your heart is. And I just heard family, 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 and work. And exercise. Right. So I think that
exercise so I can love my family, but really it's my boys. Really, those two things, my family and my business. And you know what? Friendships. I've really prioritized my friendships over the last couple of years, which has really served my soul. Like I've really brought in some amazing people into my life. So I prioritize those as well.
Awesome. All right. What, if anything, would you have done differently in your life up to this point?
Started a business earlier.
Not got engaged? Oh. I'm just kidding.
I would say I don't regret had been engaged. I think that it was part of my journey.
Okay.
I do think that I wish I knew better, meaning I wish that I was ready to double down on myself earlier to start my business. I wish that I had had the confidence to see something bigger than what was comfortable in my corporate world.
Okay. Well, I'm sure all of your listeners are so grateful that you eventually started it.
Yeah,
and you're
right.
where you are today. Yes. All right. So if you were to pass on today, and God, I hope not, but what would you want written on your tombstone? What would you want to be remembered by?
Oh my gosh, you're hard hitting, Krystle.
Not morbid at all. We're good here.
You know what? She was loved and she loved. Like, I mean, I know that sounds so corny.
But you do love. You're so passionate. I mean, just cried over how you're employing 2 mothers, and that's such a wonderful part of who you are, that kind of stuff does matter to you. I think you are sentimental just like Eric. I think you do model that, actually.
See, that's funny. We all see ourselves differently than other people see us, right? I will hope that my ambition and my pursuit of achieving things is never outweighed by the fact that the people that I care about most feel loved and that I've let them love me. And that's it. Whether those are friends or my husband or my son, is that I consistently, because in my personality as an achiever, like this is something that is kind of ingrained in who I am. And I'm not trying to change who I am, but it's always this dance with, do this, and also slow down and enjoy the small things and the things that actually really matter and balancing that all out.
And you do it well.
Thank you.
What personal advice could you give your listeners as it pertains to living life to the fullest? Would that be it? Just love and let yourself be loved?
That's been my lesson, is let yourself be loved, is like something I've been personally working on. Like just what does that look like to be totally vulnerable and let the people that want to love you wholly? My best advice is, and only because I've needed this advice myself in the past, is the to-do list and the projects, they'll be there. They're going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And to not let that stress you out at the expense of how you show up in your relationships with other people. Because when let me tell you, it's a right? Like we are all responsible for our reality. So when I let my to-do list or my business or something stress me, it 100% affects how I'm showing up for myself. Self-care, whatever, how I show up as mom. Like, don't put patient and mom in the same sentence when I'm not my best self. I'm not patient. And with my husband. And for my husband, it would be showing up, being present, like in the moment with him. So my advice would be like, just to know that it'll always be there. Like those tasks are never going away.
That's what they say at the end of people's lives when they're asked like what they regret most. It's never that they didn't make enough money or they didn't finish that task or projects. It's that they didn't spend enough time with their loved ones. And it's good that you've learned that early.
Yeah. Yep. And it's a constant, right? And for me, I'm about efficiency of it too. Like this is going to sound funny. I know we're supposed to be speed routing this, but like I know my husband and son's love language. And some of my closest friends, I know their love language. If you've never read the book, The 5 Love Languages, go do it right now. Because when you do, it makes it so much easier to show up in the way that they feel loved. So for me, it's not about like, I don't need to invest all this time. I just know what things I get like 100,000 points for because it's the thing that makes them feel loved. And so once I figured that out and I make sure that those are my non-negotiables. So like with my son, it's bedtime. Like his 30 minutes, his love language is quality time. And my husband's love language is affection, right? And so like I make sure that I'm carving out time to be present with him and to give him that attention. Does it need to be all the time? No way. They both have their worlds. So the 5 love languages has let me be efficient with how I just
quality over quantity.
Exactly.
But
that's what I'm trying to say is like, because prior to that, I was doing all the things, like a bazillion things, thinking it was all ways that I was showing love, and it wasn't their love language. So it didn't matter. And I was exhausted at the end of the day.
Okay, we've made it to the end. So I have one last question. You better not screw this up.
Okay.
Amber, what is your definition of productivity?
Productivity is investing your best time into your best activities.
You nailed it.
Of course I did. It's my definition. But oh my gosh, what a great way to close, because we've just seriously talked about personal and professional and all the things that really matter about life. And being productive, both personally and professionally, is determining what your best activities are and investing that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally kind of what I was just saying, like I know what my best activities are to show my husband that I love him, and my son and some close friends, they all have different love languages. So I make sure I hit on those so that I'm building those relationships. So
yes,
productive, both personally and professionally.
Yes. Well, Amber, it was so great turning the tables on you today and inquiring about your life behind the mic. I really hope your listeners got a clear understanding of who you are and what makes you so great. You are fantastic. You are fabulous. I love working for you and being your friend.
Oh my gosh, Krystle, thank you so much. And I mean, now that we're done, I don't know how valuable this is. I think it will be, something that I think that people feel like they're building a relationship with me as they listen in every week. And I love that we get to do that. And so I don't know. I just thought this would be a good idea, but it really came up, Krystle, because I said I was going to interview you and you're like, well, no, let me interview you.
Negative, not happening.
Yeah. Well, one day I'm going to interview you about what is it like to work for Amber.
All right. One day we'll get there.
You can give them the nitty gritty, which might be juicier than today's episode for them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Amber. We loved hearing your story today.
Thank you. Well, I hope you found that interview to be interesting. I certainly had a great time, and I really enjoyed getting Krystle on the mic as well. That was her very first time, and I think she did a fabulous job. And between you and me, that was just a little warm up, because I actually want to be interviewing her in the near future, because she has so much insight to behind the scenes of how we run the business. And I thought she would make a very interesting interview. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to go over onto Instagram and follow me. I love sharing behind the scenes of business and life, both personal and professional. So if you have not already done so, head on over and follow me at Amber_De La Garza. Again, that's Amber_De La Garza. And I will see you over on Instagram. All right. So I want to give a big old shout out to Demi RUCB, who left me a review and said, I love how Amber interviews. She guides the conversation, but it never feels still. And her personal observations are always on point. Definitely a must for someone looking to stay sharp with their productivity. Thank you so much for taking the time to leave me a review. I absolutely love every review and read them all. And if you feel so inclined and thought any episode was valuable to you, I bet a friend of yours, a fellow entrepreneur, would find it super valuable too. So just find that little share button and share it off. You can text it to them and send it to them through social media. There are so many ways to share an episode. So take the time to share with a friend. And I will be forever grateful for helping Productivity Straight Talk grow and make an impact on the entrepreneurial community. So that's my Straight Talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.